apron this morning. I've been in the kitchen. You know why? Because this Sunday, the coolest thing is happening. Kids Who Care is doing Cooking for Kids that raises money for all of our scholarship kids who couldn't be at the theater with us unless we did our homework. And what's happening this Sunday is this party that's always been just adults. It's a whole family party. You can come to the party, guys. It's Sunday night, March 29th at 5 o'clock, Texas time. It's Facebook Live. It's going to be so cool. And you know who's going to be there that a lot of you know and love? Matt Ransdell from his living room in New York, of course, because we're all staying safely tucked away. But anyway, I had on my apron this morning because I was in my kitchen actually working on my whipped cream recipe that a lot of you know really well. We'll talk about that another time. All right, so if you're joining us for the first time, I'm Deborah Jung, and the company that I get to hang out with is called Kids Who Care, and we're doing this story time specifically to get to be with you. And right now, while everybody's doing homeschool on purpose, and there's lots of things that you're trying to figure out what to do differently, we just thought getting to be together at 10 a.m. live for a story just makes good sense, right? Kermie's here. He's looking at me. He's voting yes. So I'm selecting, and all of you have them too, or maybe a lot of you have your favorite children's picture books. I love picture books. And this one, my mom actually found for me. It's called Angelina on Stage. Isn't it awesome? Angelina on Stage. My mom, and some of you who may have known my mom, went by Muzzy, and she was a grown adult with a room full of picture books. She continued to buy picture books until, she was in her 80s, right? So picture books aren't just for kids. They're for all of us, right? And this picture book, what I want you to notice is the first person who's listed is called, a fancy word called illustrator, not so fancy for a lot of you, no matter your age, but she's the person who did all of the drawings, and her name is Helen Craig, so she's listed first. And then the story, which I love the story because it's on stage, and that's what I do my whole life, right? The story is by Catherine Holabird, right? Okay. Here we go. I hope you're comfy. I have on my slippers. That's the good thing about being home. You can leave your slippers on until you need to go outside. Actually, I've been in my front yard with my slippers recently, saying hi to friends as they're taking a walk. Okay, so I don't know if you've ever read this before, but I'm excited to read it to you, okay? Angelina on Stage. Oh, and remember, if you were here another day, I love to see what's inside, just inside the cover. I love that somebody takes time to think about, before you even start the story, what do you get to see? Those of you who've had ballet, then you can see all of the positions. I can't name them. I have had ballet. I am not a ballerina. I know that, but I do love to dance. But those of you who have ballet, you can totally recognize, where is the pirouette? Where is the grand jeté? Angelina on Stage. Illustrations by Helen Craig and story by Catherine Holabird. I love Angelina right at the top. It looks like to me she might be in the theater and maybe even going down a hall to head backstage. It's quite beautiful. Theater posters. Oh dear, Kermie, I'm hitting you. I'm going to move Kermie right here. The book is hitting his head. Angelina's cousin, Henry, liked to go to her ballet lessons at Miss Lily's and join in the dancing. Henry always followed close behind Angelina, copying her graceful steps. But he wiggled and wobbled and didn't look like the ballet dancers at all. Oh, you need to find him. And you know what's great is you could just stare, you not even move to the next page. You could stare at this picture for quite a long time. It's why we have to keep coming back to our books, right? Okay, there's Henry. Let's see what happens. I think, excuse him while we have to stop for a moment. I believe he does have on ballet shoes though. Not toe shoes, but ballet shoes. He knew enough to get the right shoes on. Oh, and I have to pause to also say, I love that Miss Lily has on earrings and a necklace. For those of you who know me, I always start with my earrings before anything can happen. I do identify with Miss Lily. After each class, Angelina showed Henry the right way to do the pliés and arabesques and twirls. But Henry kept dancing in his own funny way. It's very cool that Angelina is also teaching him. That happens at Kids Who Care all the time because we've got kids of all ages and stages dancing together, and so it's really cool when somebody who has more experience can teach you. I do love, however, that Henry just kept dancing in his own funny way. Look how happy he is to dance. I think dancing's for everybody. Famous football players took ballet, guys. Then, one day, Miss Lily received a letter from Mr. Popoff, the great musical director. Angelina, said her ballet teacher, would you like to be a magic fairy in a real grown-up ballet? Angelina was thrilled. Oh, yes, she cried. It's called the Gypsy Queen, said Miss Lily excitedly. Then she turned to Henry. Mr. Popoff needs a little elf too, and you're the perfect size. Hooray, shouted Henry. But Angelina just crossed her fingers for good luck, hoping he wouldn't do anything too silly. Oh, this is so lovely. I mean, her first invitation out of a ballet class to be on stage with a real audience. And what I do love is that they knew immediately that Henry would be the best elf. You don't have to be the most experienced in the group to be on stage. Lovely, right? At rehearsals, Angelina learned to fly through the air with a special wire attached to her costume so that she looked like a fairy floating down out of the sky. Henry was supposed to scamper through the woods below looking for the fairy, but he often got mixed up and went the wrong way. Oh, this feels so cool. Guys, this reminds me of when we did Peter Pan and we flew kids. We even flew Tinkerbell. She was the littlest one and she got to fly. This is so cool. I mean, this is my home for my life. As a theater person, this is what's so cool is getting to rehearse. And what's great about storybooks is looking to see who all is helping. Oh, wow. For those of you who know our tech friends, our production manager, Chad, hires all those people that you see up above the stage at the spotlights and building the scenery. And we love Rick Morrison, who builds our scenery. He's a great carpenter. And then David Lanz is in the room because he's creating sound. And Steven Sinich is watching over us. We call him Papa Bear. For those of you who know backstage, you might see people you know in this picture. Oh, I love it so much. Oh. You know what I do love as well is that it looks like talking to Henry, he doesn't look mad. He's just knowing Henry has to find his way. Okay, let's see what happens next. All the actors and actresses adored Henry anyway. And during the breaks, the lovely Madame Zizi gave him little treats in her dressing room. Then Mr. Popoff decided that Henry should say something on stage, and Angelina was very jealous. Look at this dressing room. Oh my heavens. What I know is it doesn't matter how experienced you get and how professional. When you add someone like Henry to the group, the magic comes back. Then you're not just doing the same old ballet and the same old story, because Henry felt it for the first time. It was magical. Oh, an entire box of chocolates. I don't know, I haven't seen a box of chocolates in my dressing room. I might have to change how I work. Popoff decided Henry should say something on stage, and Angelina felt very jealous. Everyone cheered when Henry came on stage and said in his little squeaky voice, "There goes my friend, the magic fairy." But he was not so good at finding his way from the dressing room to the stage and was always getting lost. Oh. Angelina's a little worried. She's a little worried. I don't think anybody else is worried because they believe in Henry. That's really cool. But I also think it's real to be an Angelina worried. I understand that too. On the first night of the performance, everyone backstage was very excited. Angelina waited in the wings with her crown on and her wand ready as the audience crowded into the theater and the orchestra began to play. Madame Zizi glanced around nervously and said, "Oh dear, where's my little elf?" Oh dear. Oh my. See them all standing backstage? Oh my goodness. When you're at Kids Who Care, we're doing the stance, we're taking a deep cleansing breath, we're doing all that stuff so we won't be nervous. Ooh, and then always backstage, you can count on it. Little tiny things happen and everybody has to work together. But they've got to have the little elf, right? They got to have the little elf. Oh dear, where's my little elf? Angelina ran wildly through the corridors looking for Henry. Oh my, look at her. She's checking every nook and cranny, and every theater has all kinds of hallways and stairways and little nooks and crannies, so there's a million places to check. Whew. Angelina ran wildly through the corridors looking for Henry and bumped into him as he was running the wrong way down the hall. "Oh, I got lost again," Henry sobbed as Angelina grabbed his hand and raced back to the stage. Oh my goodness, I felt that right before I was going on. Something happened and I was ready to cry or starting to cry, and then somebody grabbed my hand. Ooh, I feel this in my stomach. This has happened to me. Angelina had her special wire fastened just in time. She soared up over the trees, waving her magic wand as Henry jumped out of the wings and skipped through the woods to the front of the stage. Oh my goodness. Oh my heavens. That feeling that you walk up just as they need to hook up your wire, and Henry walks up just as he needs to make his entrance. I mean, it happens, doesn't it? Ooh, and if you've never been backstage, you're one of the people in the audience, this happens. This totally happens. It's what makes it so magical, is everybody's in it together. Oh, look at the symphony in the orchestra pit. Do you see way over here? There's the symphony. Oh, I love the symphony, the sound of live music coming out of the pit. Oh. Doesn't matter how many times I hear it. When I hear those notes coming out of the pit, there's just makes me feel happy. Oh, did you see the spot up there? Because a fairy flying through without lights is not the same kind of fairy. It takes everybody. Henry turned and saw the theater filled with lights and a sea of strange faces. He couldn't open his mouth. He just stared out at the audience. For an awful moment, nothing happened. Oh my goodness, guys, if you have ever performed, this is going to happen, and not just once. It's going to happen even after you get really great at what you're doing and with lots of experience. You step out there and there's nothing in your head, and the audience is looking at you, waiting. It's terrifying. Whew, I can't wait to see what happens. Oh, wait a minute. Look right here. Look in the audience. That tiny little girl. Oh, I wonder what the woman's saying to her. What's going to happen, maybe. Let's see what's going to happen. I do love his costume, and that's polka dots. Serves him right, thought Angelina, still feeling annoyed. But when she looked down and saw how terrified Henry looked, she felt sorry for him. Angelina waved her magic wand and called to Henry in a loud, clear voice, "Hello, little elf, can you see me?" Henry looked up with relief and said, "Oh, there goes my best friend, the magic fairy." Oh my. You know, I saw Macy Tebow do this year with Miss Ellie Minton. We were performing, and Miss Ellie, who's a brilliant actress, looked out at the audience and couldn't remember what she was going to say. And Macy Tebow just stood right next to her. In fact, she got down on her knees and looked in her eyes. And immediately, of course, Ellie remembered all of her lines. This happens. But you don't have to worry if you're on stage with people who love you and take care of each other. There is a moment to look at his costume and really look at them. What good friends. And friends that are different now that this has happened. Oh my. So let's see what happens next. At the end of the show, Angelina and Henry took a curtain call with all the actors and dancers. Oh, we should look at that for just a moment. If you know me, one of my favorite things is a curtain call. I will spend as much time as we need to create that moment for the audience and the actors to be together and to create a curtain call that just makes their hearts soar. I mean, this is one of my favorite things about theater is a curtain call. The audience cheered and clapped, and the director thanked everyone for a wonderful performance. Oh, my goodness. I want to go to this theater. Isn't this a beautiful theater? It's really beautiful. Madame Zizi gave Angelina some of her own roses, and Mr. Popoff smiled at her and said, "You're a fine actress, and you'll have a speaking part too from now on." Angelina was so pleased that she took Henry by the hands and waltzed around the stage with him until they were both very, very dizzy. Oh, it's my experience. Every time you help someone on stage, the ballerina who suddenly sings becomes a principal singer down center. Or the person who steps in when someone else gets sick. I mean, every time you decide to help somebody and take a risk and just step out there, all kinds of good stuff starts to happen. That's what I think. Oh, I never noticed Henry had a hat as part of his costume, but it's flying off because they're waltzing so furiously. I wonder if there's something hiding back here. Oh yes, back in ballet class, I do adore that. And guys, I'm saying always look at the back of the book. It always finishes with the feeling that the author and the illustrator want you to know. So guys, here we are. I am so happy that Wyatt and Graham, hi guys. Teresa Pels, you're one of our beautiful writers. I'm so happy that you're with us this morning. And Dexter is also letting me know that we should say hi to you from him because he's turned into a cameraman because he happens to live in my house and know how to do this stuff right. So we want to thank Dexter. Hey Dex, thank you very much. And we want to remind you, there's a party Sunday night, March 29th, Cooking for Kids, Facebook Live. Will you tell some friends to join us? They might be at home and they're starting to kind of run out of things to do. So maybe at 10 a.m. tomorrow, they can meet us here and I'll be ready with my next book. And as soon as the camera goes off, I'm going back to my kitchen because I need to practice on my whipped cream, right? We love you from Kids Who Care. Thanks for joining us for story time. It's a beautiful day. Bye-bye.